Hello everyone, Nefertiti here. Alrighty, so have you ever wondered how to make your paintings go from this to this? Well, then I have the tutorial for you. Stay tuned and I will show you how to scene blend with lighting and shading to make your characters really look like they're a part of a piece, especially if you're doing pieces that are around early sunrise, sunset, or at nighttime. During the day, it's a little bit easier since colors won't be affected by the light too much, but on these other times of the day in which the light is filtered, it will definitely make a difference. So keep on watching and let's see what's going on. Also, there's a short message at the end of this video, so stay tuned if you'd like to check it out. Okie dokes. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is just open up your canvas and select a neutral tone that's relatively close to what you're trying to do. Since I'm doing firelight, I'm picking kind of like a grayish orange here. Make a new layer above your canvas and then set it to multiply to begin your shading. You'll see that this creates a very natural looking shadow that doesn't interfere with the color of the character nearly as much. Then it's just a matter of laying down all that shading. At this point, it's very important to keep in mind your source of your lighting. In the case of this piece, the source is the campfire. And it's a pretty strong fire, therefore it's going to cast very intense light and create very intense shadows. So I'm laying down the lighting and the shadows accordingly. Most of it will fall on the left-hand side of the character and along their back since the firelight is on the ground. To get a better understanding of how to do relative shadows like this, it's a good idea to practice still life. Set up some objects in a random pattern, shine a light on them from one light source, and then attempt to replicate all the shadows within that painting. I know it's really tedious, but it is something that will make a huge impact on your work in the long run, especially when you're painting characters that don't technically exist, so there's really not much of a reference to go off of. Dragons are very forgiving in the fact that they're fantasy creatures, so however you paint them is entirely up to your own personal interpretation. There's no such thing as perfect dragon anatomy. It will change from person to person, and the same goes for the shading on it. Everyone has a different shading style. Until you find what you're comfortable with, feel free to experiment. You never know, you may stumble across exactly what you're looking for by accident. That was the case of my shading here. When I first learned how to shade with these really soft shadows, I think I was messing around with a brush, just kind of, screwing around, wasn't really concentrating on it. And after fiddling around, I noticed that I really liked how crispy the shadows turned out. They kind of ride the line, I think, between being cartoony and anime and a little bit of realism mixed in there when I go into the heavy, heavy detail. So that was an accident that I figured out how to do this. Just mess around with your brushes and different layer settings and see what you like. You get some artists out there that use really intense shadows. Some use opposite colors as shadows. I prefer these really smooth ones just because they tend to blend things together a lot more smoothly and make them look much softer. And as you can see on the character's face here, when I'm adding all my shadows, it really gives that effect that the firelight is making these characters shaded. It seems like such a small thing, but it goes such a long way. And this is only the first portion of how to scene blend with your characters. The number one thing that I tend to see newer artists do is they'll put all this effort into shading a character, but the shading will either not line up with how the light source would be casting, and then they'll just forget to apply the filter of nighttime, midday, morning, evening. Maybe they're in a spooky cave, maybe there's like a gas around them or something. All of these different things would affect the overall lighting of the picture. So while my shadows in this piece are quite strong, and you can see that it does give that aesthetical feeling of being by a campfire, it's not quite there yet. It still needs just a little bit extra of a push. And that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do a little bit later in this video. Right now I'm just going through and softening all of my shading. This is something, again, that I personally do, so it will be different from artist to artist. For me, I prefer to lay down my shading with a soft airbrush and then come in with the smudge tool and just barely rub along the edges here. You can see it kind of blurs them a little bit, but it also adds a little bit of a painted texture. I like to think it kind of has an oil painting feel to it, which is what I'm going for with my paintings these days. I really want to just be able to ride the line between digital art and oil painting. But I definitely have a lot of stuff to learn before I can do that more professionally. This painting was a gift that the blue dragon in the photo had purchased as a gift for the red one's birthday. So it was a lot of fun to paint, and for some reason, I don't know why, but whenever I do a painting that's being given as a gift to somebody, it always seems to turn out so much better than anything else I do. Maybe it's just the fact that it's something being given from the heart, or that it's more so I'm trying to make both parties happy. I don't entirely understand why, but for some reason, my paintings always seem to look so much nicer when they're gifts. But I am definitely a stickler for commission quality. And now that all my shading is done, we can begin the next step. Alrighty, so with our shading done, we're ready to finally move into the next portion of this painting. Create a new layer above the shading and the character base, set it to a clipping mask on the soft light layer, and then you're just going to grab the darkest color of the night sky and a mid-tone between the darkest dark and the lightest light within your bright lighting source. So in this case, it's the campfire. I selected a kind of a deep rusty orange. Using the gradient tool, you're going to want to drag from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, with the dark being on the top. When you see what this does to your filter, it applies just a nice little subtle shift in color from what it was before. It helps the characters really blend into the background, and I find that that definitely makes this piece look more like it's at night. The following thing you need to do is add your intense highlights, which is what I'm going to do here. By grabbing a nice bright mid-tone, I'm going to brush along the edges and create a very bright highlight using the soft light and the add layer settings. This definitely makes the whole piece look like that firelight is really shining off of these characters. It doesn't seem like it does very much when you're first starting out, but if you slowly build up the colors like this, you can see what amazing differences it does make. Layer them little by little depending on how intense your lighting is, and you'll find that they make such a big difference in the end. As you can see here by the finished piece. I had such a blast painting this, and I was so happy to see the reactions of the commissioner and the person who it was purchased for. It's paintings like this that I really enjoy doing, as well as providing the knowledge that I've learned over my years with just experimentation to you guys. If you did enjoy this video, and you felt it was helpful in some way, consider leaving a like and subscribing to this channel. I'm always trying to upload the kind of content that you guys enjoy, and the things that you ask for. So don't hesitate to leave a comment below. And now for the short message that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. For those who don't already know, I have a Patreon. Doing art takes time, making sculptures takes time, and of course editing videos takes time. If you would like to help support me make more content like this, consider becoming a Patreon. Even the smallest donations can really go a super long way into helping me make more videos like this for you guys and more art in general. Commissions aren't the only thing I use to sustain myself, so any additional support would be absolutely spectacular from you guys. There's a couple of rewards based on the tiers as well, including free artwork and Discord rewards. Consider becoming a subscriber to my Patreon. You never know. A little bit may go a long way. And of course, you get to have your name on this lovely Patreon screen you see before you. These wonderful people have helped me for the last month since I opened my Patreon, but I would so love if you would consider joining them. Alrighty, thank you guys so very much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day and a fantastic life.